Surprise! We're going live on a Friday, 5 p.m. East Coast time, and it is East Coast to be two. Happy Friday, happy after Veterans Day, and Veterans Day for those that are veterans, or even not even just those that are veterans, those that had people in their family that were veterans. All right. If you don't know who we are, we're Women in Linux. I'm Tamika Reed. I am your guest, Mr. Rourke, and welcome to Fantasy Island. The whole thing. Um, Today we had a special guest, but we're gonna get. I'm gonna surprise y'all in a minute, but right now let's get started on uh, who we are. Again, if you want to connect with us, you connect with us on womeninlinux.org. Um, if once you get there, you want to connect more with us, again, hit connect. That's going to take you to this page here, and that's where our Slack group is at. Have to put in your email address also, and then you'll connect with us on Slack. Next thing up is if you want to shop with us, you can hit us up on our shop where we have all products and so forth, where you can buy stuff for yourself, or you can purchase something for someone else. You can get a handy dandy uh, little, little pouch or clutch, if you want to say that. Oh, there's also this one here. If you want to get that. And as well, there's also the mug. Oh yeah, and the hat. If you want to get the hat, see, Mm, fit it in the back. And anything else, stationery. I have some stationery up here. Let me look. Let me see. Yeah, I do. Stationery right here. If you want to get some stationery, let me get the book. Is this it? Is this my planner? Is this the right planner? Don't look like it. I think this is a planner D bought me. This ain't it. It's another one. It's over there though. Oh, you know what? Somebody snagged it for me. I did have it. Somebody snatched it from me. I got robbed of my planner. So I got a D. You got to order me another one. All right. And last but not least, if you want to uh, donate, you can donate with your time. You can donate with money. You can do a meetup. You can sponsor a meetup. You can also do a lightning talk, whatever the case may be. You can also hit us up on here on YouTube. You can hit us up as well too if you want to do that, um, and go from there. All right. So today, uh, we're gonna be talking about a lot of things. Really centered around Netflix and jobs and uh, so forth. And also we're gonna drop the link. So those of you that have that got questions, you more than welcome to come up for the Q&A if you need to, to have, if you got some questions or you wanted some insights. I think our guest is ready. We can bring him on up. Come to the stage, Mr. Charles. Is he ready? He's ready. Oh, there, he's ready.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday to you too. Uh, you all remember Charles from the last time on our meetup. If you were on our live on our meetups on Wednesday, we had a big discussion. I think everybody was floored, what have you. But here we are. We back again, tag team back again. Yeah. And we're here to talk about one. I know you have a lot of just security positions open at Netflix, but kind of wanted to keep it loose. People can ask questions. People that want to come up, you're more than welcome to come up. But we want to have it open where you could, where you're free to talk about the positions, work life balance at Netflix, um, what the future is of security. I mean, stuff is moving so fast now in the metaverse. I know you're all gonna be in the metaverse. I know it's coming. You're doing video productions in the metaverse, NFTs, video NFTs, the whole nine. So I'm sure there's some rumblings around Netflix on that. I know you probably can't say, but you can always give your own thoughts. You know, you are your own man. You don't have to keep it to Netflix and whatever else that you feel open to discuss as well too. So let's get cracking. Let's tell everybody about who you are because we had you on one time on our show, and I don't think everybody knows who you are and who what you represent and what you do.
Yeah,
Uh,
I appreciate that, Tamika. I don't. Yeah, I don't remember if I actually did an intro last time I was on. I think I just.
nah, I think we just got
Yeah,
into it.
you just jump right into it. So, as Tamika mentioned, my name is Charles Nwatu. I have been in the security field for probably about 16 years now. I started my career in digital forensics and incident response, working for a federal agency by the name of DISA, Defense Information Systems Agency. Had a heck of a time traveling the world doing disastigs and things of that nature, and doing incidents for different COCOMs across the globe. Decided to expand myself and go into like the private industry, work for McAfee, doing some of their virus scan work, and then decided to move out to the Bay to like everyone mentioned that hey, if you want to do in tech, like Bay is the place to go. So I said, okay, well let me go out here and see what this is all about. Was hired to help build out LinkedIn's incident response team. Had the honor to go move to a company called Twilio and help build their incident response team. And then along the way, I said, hey, I want to run my own security team. So I left Twilio to go to a company called Stitch Fix and build out their security team. And then my transition to Netflix was really interesting. I wasn't actively looking, but I knew I was burnt out from running my own security team and everything that goes into managing a security organization. And my time at Netflix, I've been focusing a lot on the GRC space. And in fact, I sort of call it like GRC plus A, and the A stands for assurance. In my time so far in like GRC, I'm learning just about like how pivotal compliance, governance, risk is to informing security organizations and the larger business organization, and using this as a tool to help narrate how I can talk about security to executives, leadership, and everyone else. I'm very excited to sort of work on expanding like GRC, like GRC evolved. So I'm really excited about questions that are in the GRC space. But my background came from detection, malware analysis, incident response, and things of that nature. So I'll open it up to you, Tamika, to see how
Uh,
we go from here.
yeah, so one of the things I think we should talk about that I don't ever see enough of is leadership, right? Especially we see it around security some, but I don't know of a genuine path to like a tech leadership to lead teams and to what skill sets or what type of people you're looking for in order to build those teams. So being that you had this illustrious career around that, what can you say in terms of like what type of skill sets do you need from for yourself to be that leader, and then we can hop into what skill sets you look for people to come in to be on a team. Like what are you looking for? And I know each case is different,
Mhm.
but I feel like there's some similarities that is probably the same across the board.
Yeah, interesting question. When it comes to managing and leading teams, to be quite frank, I did not. That was not my first desire to do so. um, it wasn't until I had a conversation with, I would call one of my mentors, Corey Scott, and he mentioned that when you manage a team, you're giving them like the mental models as to how to think about problems, and being able to do that at scale and leverage. That means like you don't have to be present in all those different places. Like there's like they have the ability to execute, think, and have models they can pull from in their toolkit to say, okay, I understand why we would either do this versus that, and be able to articulate that. So when I started to think in that mindset of like, oh, how do I help people leverage themselves and communicate and provide them the different tools that they can go and use in their tool set, it became like an interesting challenge because it was more about the psychological. understanding of people and how to help unlock people to be like the like versions of themselves that they've yet to meet. I thought that was really exciting in addition to the tech stuff. So the combination of those two, I think, from a skill set, like when you enter into management or leadership, is recognizing that you can have impact in other ways. One of the challenges that I've run into and some of my other peers is like, how do you balance like the technical, like getting into the weeds and being a hands-on manager versus like the people management, like the organization and execution at the team level. And I think the beauty nowadays is that you don't have to be a people manager to actually have that impact. Like there are roles that are um, technical in nature that operate at the same level as managers and directors, like technical direct leads and things of that nature that allow people who still want to maintain that technical depth or that technical understanding, but have an impact at a larger scale. And for individuals who want to do like the people management with some cross functional skill sets, communication, and some technical insight, and bridging those two things together. So I
Right.
would say like those are the two things I would look for off the back.
Right. And now, were there any books that you read or mentors that you reached out to get some understanding or some training?
I would say there was, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but there was a book, but I think his name is like Simon Showstack, I think is his name. Start with Why
Hmm.
was a good book. It sort of explained like how do you. Most of the times we tell people what they need to do, but we don't focus on the narrative as to develop as to the why and how does all this work fit together. And that book was very instrumental in my learning because it helped me sort of think about not just like what I want people to sort of achieve, but how and why is relevant in the yeah, that's it. Yep, yep. Yes. Oh,
Okay.
Simon Sinek. Okay.
Hmm.
I knew I butchered
It's
it.
okay. It's okay. I murk names all the time.
Um,
Names and words. I murk them.
that was a good book. Another one is called Black Box Thinking, and I definitely don't remember the author of this one.
Hey, let's go
Um,
see what we can find.
but I really enjoyed that book in terms of how to think about, yeah, learn from your yeah.
Which one?
The reason, yeah, the reason why I love this book is that I actually look at failure as a true learning opportunity, and sometimes we don't give individuals the space to fail in a way that allows them to like understand those root causes and take those things back within them and say, okay, as I'm working through problems in the future, I now have like data that I can say, oh, if I'm heading down this path, there are things I probably need to check because I've been
Hmm.
down this path before. There's no one in the technology space, let alone walking this earth, that has not had some type of failure for which I would hope they've learned from and internalized that and are using that to better prepare themselves for the next potential interaction that may come. So I love this book because it really focused on um, how can we really focus on using failure as a positive learning technique.
Right. And then the other part too, I think now we've seen the age of postmortems, where where we have the ability to say, okay, what failed as a team, and what can we do better, and what things have we implemented, or safeties that we have implemented around that. And some of that is training, right? You It's nothing like live production failure and live training, right? Nothing like it. So I think that's the other aspect that we have to take away from that. Now, onto the team side is, what do you look for in building a security team? Like, are you looking for people to come in advanced or trainable, as a lot of people like to say, or you're looking for beginners where you can say, okay, you got some knowledge, but you're gonna have to take some lumps and bruises along the way to get I guess sped up on the material.
I would say, like you mentioned, like there's a wide spectrum in that space, and I think it also depends on where your company is at along that maturity. I've been in places where I've been able to like take, like as you mentioned, like you like, hey, you're going to have to mature some, and some that's going to come from like learning by doing, like right, maybe new entry college grads or entry level or career transitions, and saying, okay, like this is where we're going to scope your role, and sort of bring you along through various exercises, engagements, and projects. And then you have your mid-level career folks who they've had some experiences, and now they want to probably work on like bigger or broader projects, but need the opportunity to exercise those muscles in a way that they can learn. And then you have your senior folks where there's a level of understanding where they come in, they are self-sustaining, they understand like how to pull together different parts of the business and technology stacks, and are able to like ask the right questions, help teammates like pull them up. So I think like you mentioned, there's a spectrum, and when it comes for the teams that I'm currently building, I think we've been mainly focused at that mid-level to senior level, but also where it makes sense, being very let me say, I guess the word is like, if the opportunity presents itself, like hiring like those new college grads, or providing the pathways for internships that give them the exposure and potentially like the roadmap to a full-time hire.
Right. No, no. Often what I've seen is the the big picture often escapes people when they're coming in, right? It's because you hear it all the time. Somebody says, "Oh, I went and got certified in AWS, and I went and got certified in Azure, and I went and got certified in this." But then you say, "Okay, well, build me a pipeline with GitLab or GitHub or whatever the choice is for this repository, and then deploy these applications. Oh, and by the way, we're gonna use Datadog and do some observability. Oh, and some unit testing in that pipeline. Oh, and some security testing." That goes out the window, right? And so I'm always telling people like, hey, you need to make sure that you understand the big picture and how all these different tools play with each other, and where they play with each other at, right? Because some stuff is in Azure and some stuff is in Google Cloud and some is in AWS. It depends on the company,
Mhm.
but it's just understanding what these different tools do, and how to use them. And again, it gets back to the why. Is it like why are we using it, and what's the angle there in order to use those things?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like one of the things that I've been working on, I think is a skill that anyone can use. Like, well, what is your desired outcome? And then from
Hmm.
that desired outcome, working backwards to sort of give yourself like, okay, I need to do this by this point, or I need to see this action by this point, so like where you're trying to get to. And to your point about certifications in these different like cloud areas, or technologies, like I don't think I have any position like positive or negative for certifications, because
Hmm.
everyone's path and journey is different. But I do agree to the point where, how are you taking those learnings and applying them, whether it's a simple project for yourself and building and expanding, or in your workspace or your workplace, giving the opportunity to like really exercise the certification skills you're learning, so that you can build additional confidence and understand how what they taught you reflects in your day-to-day job, or how your business actually operates those tools across AWS, Google Cloud Platform, or Windows, Microsoft Azure.
Hmm. Now, now that you're in this position, do you like what's your next level that you want to go to? What's the outlook for you?
Uh, I guess, for to be honest, I think I would love to be able to run a security program again. Now, I think for me is just understanding, like, do I want to do that at a small startup company, or do I need to prepare myself to, how do I look for like 100-person security org, or 250 security person org? Like, I would love the opportunity and the challenge to sort of work through that, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, have you ever thought about just creating your own startup?
I don't think I'm cut up for that. Bless those who have the patience and the wherewithal to do that. I don't think I have the innate nature to do my own startup. I've had some ideas in the past, but it just does not boil my blood to do do that work.
Got you. Now, with that being said, would you consider like maybe creating a consulting company where you consult with startups and go from there?
I've actually thought about doing that. That's actually something that that I would be open to doing. In fact, I've done that before for some smaller startups who just had security questions. I remember having working with one organization who did remittance work, and they were facing challenges around account takeovers and botnets and stuff. So like I feel very comfortable in like providing that type of um, like consultancy services or that type of engagement and feedback.
Right. So another question: what's your take on um someone who's graduated from college? They got their masters in information assurance, and they're looking for their big break into cybersecurity. Maybe have a little technical experience, but not a lot of technical experience. What kind of plan would you like? I know what kind of plan I would tell them, but I'm too harsh, possibly. What kind of plan would you have?
I'm interested in hearing your plan because I actually think this is a very troubling area
Yes,
because you hear all the statistics saying like job shortage. I mean, supply shortages for cybersecurity professionals, right? But then we're seeing, well, my experience, that there are people getting trained in this space. They are graduating with bachelor's and advanced degrees, and or they're getting certifications across these spaces. However, that first, like you said, how do you give them that first entry to actually demonstrate? Like for some reason, my experience been there's a disconnect there,
it is.
and
It's
I'm
a
trying to go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's a total disconnect. I struggled with this as well too, but my background was a little different. I was already doing Linux administration and security work anyway, but I got my master's in information assurance with a focus in cybersecurity. What I learned in that class, it was a lot of paperwork. What I learned was how to read compliance rules and not apply them from a technical standpoint. And I had an issue with that. And the issue was that gets me nothing if I'm in the job and I don't have those technical skills to apply it. And so that has been a pain point for me. So I know a lot of people gonna dislike this. I tell them all the time, if you're gonna go get your CISSP, at least learn Linux and at least learn some cloud around it. So when you walk into the door, it's not new for you. It's not that it's not a shock to you. It's something that you can understand how it works. That's just my take. It may not be popular, but that has been my take.
I'm not sure I'm too far off from your take either, due to the fact that uh, so 2 points. The governance, like I mentioned, governance, risk, and compliance. Like I talk about it. Like I love this group. I'm learning to love this domain. But I call it the dry turkey of security. And sorry for non meat eating folks, but um, like my job now is how do I make that flavorful? Like how do I add the moisture and this sazon to it? And
Mhm.
part of it is to your point. Like if like you can read the context of those controls like literally as like a document, but are there ways that you can take that document and use engineering principles within, whether it's a cloud infrastructure or if it's within your business environment, to build services, scripts, bots that can interact and I guess move those checklists or those compliance rules into tangible, actionable items within the business. Like that's to me the bridge of the security world to me, and the engineering component along with the compliance and governance part of it. So so part of that is actually, well, having the insights to understand the engineering elements. And sometimes when you don't have some of that practical knowledge or even of that exposure, then it really makes the connection hard to make with your counterparts. Like, yes, you know the letter of the law, like you got that, but how does that show up in terms of practice and execution and understanding the different environments where, like, okay, well, this sounds right in the book, but when I come to do it, maybe there's those nuances that I don't get without either working with someone or even fiddling around with it myself to be able to have that aha, like, okay, it's not so not as just as the book says, but there's some little nuances there.
Hmm. And often the other part that I have found is um it's being able to understand that there has to be some type of I don't want to say leeway, but there has to be some relaxation on some of the rules, because it's not take this and it's going to fit here. You have to understand that you're going to take this and roll through it to make sure that it meets some. It may not be able to meet all, because we have some exceptions that we may need to meet for our customer, for the company, and understand that there's a fine balance between that and so forth.
Yeah, and I think that goes into the process of risk management, which is why like I'm so excited to talk about this because in your example, like yes, there are things that you can tactically do that may address the things, and there's some things that you may not. But if you understand your risk and the level of investments you're willing to make, that trade-off is perfectly acceptable. But you're making it intentional by being able to capture that and understand that and sharing that across the business. And I think that's relevant for like the risk management life cycle and how that works with engineering and compliance and governance.
Right. Now along the side, now I know you moved from threat detection, and so do you miss that aspect of it?
It's changed. I think what I miss is just the hunt.
Okay.
Like I was like a blue defender. So I love like understanding how all the tools work together. I'm a true believer that if you're running like an incident team or a response team, like you are the bloodline of the organization because you will know first where the business is suffering. Like you'll see the incidents, like you feel the pain before other parts of the business may do that. So like I miss that. I'm not sure if I miss like being on call and getting like paged to or the holiday seasons, like having like my Slack next to me or my laptop. Like I don't know if I miss all that, but I do just miss like the analysis, the like piecing the puzzle together and trying to find the pieces and building the story and the data analysis of the work. Like so, part of me does miss that, but I don't miss those calls in the middle of the night, like because those they can be scary at times as to the
Right.
impact.
But I think you just said some key points there that should be pulled out and acknowledged. The story, right? The story of the threat, there's a story there. There's something, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And so being able to piece that together, and that's how I look at, for me, that's how I look at infrastructure. That's how I look at security. That's just how I look at the big picture. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now you may take five different ways to get there, right? And every way is gonna be different, right? But the fact that you're able to visualize it, right? And I think when for me, when it comes down to what I see in tech, I don't think there's enough visualization of where we're going. Like, hey, this is where we're going, and here's some paths to get there, because it's not just one path. There's multiple paths, but understanding the risk, and here's where security comes into play, of getting there as well too. And I don't think that's often told. I know it wasn't told to me coming out of college. uh I learned that when I got in the industry.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the start with why, and because from there you can piece together like how your work integrates and what you're doing integrates to that why. So like a lot of it to me at times is like the story development around security, like how we choose to narrate the work that we do with our peers, our partners, and externally. So I think like what I believe is like fundamental to some degree is like how do you talk about your work? How does it show up in the business? Like part of like the recognition of that work also. So there's work that we can do in the security community just to better like, start with the why and then how do we like share that across our business partners and peers.
Now, I also want to take time to acknowledge the people that are in our audience. I see you, Professor Black Ops. Yes, CCISP is a management test, but you'll be surprised how much is actually pushed for people to get, in terms of, hey, I got my CISSP, and go from there. What's going on, Sasha? How you doing? And Casey Native, how you doing? And for everybody else that's out there, we dropped the link if you want to hop on, and if you have questions, let us know. If you want to come up, what have you, we kind of open. This is the perfect time to talk to someone in a fang, as they like to call it. It's not even fang no more. What is it?
Oh, I
Fa-
don't know.
fa- fam G. I don't know.
I don't know.
Phi MG. I don't
It's
know. Since
not
it's meta now,
meta now. Yeah,
that's gone, right?
yeah,
So I don't even know how you put all that together, but
yeah.
uh, and say your last name again for me.
Nuatu.
Nuatu. We're talking to Charles Nuatu, our senior security engineering manager.
Engineer. Yep.
Yep. Yep. Make sure I said that right. So this is the one chance you all get again live to talk to someone about security and cybersecurity and the paths to take, the jobs that are out there. Charles posted a job. That's why I have him on. I knew you was gonna come up.
You know I can't. You know I can't type. I had to come up. Shout out to Charles, but you know I had to come up.
What's up, Professor Black Ops?
Chilling. We all been there, and I worked at DoD. They tell everybody to take the CISP. It be people that be on the help desk checking CISP. Man, that's just the sort of du jour. To me, I don't want to crap on a CSP. I know CSPs don't know shit about Active Directory, Linux,
That's
Windows.
the
It's
point.
it's a management test. So
But that's what we're saying.
facts.
What I'm simply saying is this. I'm like, if you're gonna take it, at least get some technical skills around it, because this is my take on it. You could do cybersecurity, infrastructure, DevSecOps, and be in the game for the next 5 to 10 years, give or
Facts.
take your age, give or take your patience. But again, if you are sitting on the sidelines and you're just only doing compliance, the way AI and automation is set up,
Nah, I give you that. But don't say that. I eat well in insurance. I be eating a dry turkey, man. I be getting fat on the dry turkey.
I, ha-
But now
I, have
you
no-
100% correct.
I have nothing against the dry turkey, but I think there's just better ways. I think this is my experience. There's an opportunity to help our auditors understand like the true value of the security work that's being done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, instead of like, okay, manually going for the rote of the checklist, like,
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you how the security investments we're doing actually is improving the security. And this is the evidence that we show for it. And we build this in through our CI/CD pipeline
Mm-hmm.
where we have those principles. So, like, we can show you from code to data
Mm-hmm.
output, like what we're actually doing, and we have confidence in that work. That's to me why, like, I love the assurance part. I
Mm-hmm.
actually think the assurance part is what's truly missing when people say GRC. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
just leave off the assurance, which is basically to me the validation and
Right.
with confidence that the things you're doing before are actually working.
Right. The only pushback, and let me say this first. I agree with both of y'all. The problem is, I think you need to be a mature organization to get there. I think, like you said, they separate them. Is Tam? She's getting busy. She's simming, Ansel bowling, and building metal hardware. Assurance people don't care about that, right? Then assurance people want to know what is the checkbox that I need to check to make sure I'm good. And most assurance people, and I do this for a living, I'm gonna get a checklist to Tam. She's the SME, right? I'm gonna give that to Tim, and Tim's gonna fill it out and give it back to me, right? So there's that. I think that interaction, and that's what I do. I work with the compliance director, and I work with Tim, and I do the I take the requirements over to Tim, right? And I think that's the parts that's missing. And both of y'all right. I just think as an industry, as you can see, because we get hacked every week, we immature. We know we're close to what y'all saying. Tim's right. She be giving that gym, and everybody's kind of like Drake. I don't want to hear none of that. That's too difficult, right? So
yeah. But the problem, and feel free to chime in, Charles, because
Mm.
you're in a much bigger organization than what I'm in. I'm at a startup, so startup world is, let's just
It's
IPO.
different. Yeah.
facts. Hold on. Let me
You're
chime
trying to
in real
survive.
quick. I'm gonna chime in real quick. Shout out
Yeah.
to Tim. I just had a interview with a startup for pharmaceutical, and I'm trying to get that accredited investor money I never would have thought of without Tam. I'm trying to get the real man. I'm trying to get fatter in 2022. So I just want to say
You
shout out to Tam.
look right above you. Let me move my finger over.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Right above you is this guy that I know named Charles.
Thanks, thanks.
Over there at Netflix. Now, if you haven't checked out their baseline salaries,
Oh, I've
I
seen it.
know
I've
he
seen
can't
it.
go on live right now and say it. We clipped
Facts.
it
I've
out
seen it. I've
before.
seen it.
So
I've seen it. I got to get with you and get my base skills because I saw what Netflix, because I'm a Java guy, their Java components that they be open source be outrageous. I'm like, oh, I got to get with Tim and get my skills up. I just can't walk into Netflix, hurting a little bit on my base security. So, Tim, you're 100% right, but I need to work on my Ansible before I just run up into Netflix.
that's not even. I don't even think y'all are using Ansible or nothing. Y'all write everything in house,
Oh yeah,
right?
I
Yeah.
seen some of y'all open source. It's phenomenal. I use that to learn on baseline. I thought I knew some Java. I started looking at Netflix Cloud and what they be doing with the videos and how to do them across the whole planet and which servers close. And if that one's not hitting the heartbeat, we can roll you over here where you barely really get any little buffer. And I'm like, well, damn, I thought I knew something.
And speaking of that, I don't know. Were you around Charles when y'all were going? It was popular. I don't know if it's still popular. Were y'all doing intuition engineering? Was that still?
Oh, maybe it was called chaos engineering.
So did it roll into chaos engineering? Is
I'm
that what it rolled into?
it might be like what I would just describe it for how I know, like chaos engineering is where you inject the faults or the badness within your ecosystem to determine how your systems will either fail, or you get the observability metrics to understand like how your systems will respond and react so that you can actually build and be better in tune. So like I know that there's work going on in that space. I have some good friends that are working in chaos engineering space externally outside of Netflix, but that's what my understanding was.
Yeah, there was a whole video on intuition engineering where basically it was talking about basically predictive modeling. Like, hey, we know this traffic is going to come this way. Let's go ahead and make these adjustments for it. And it was a whole diagram for the whole video about it. And the only reason why I know about it is because I actually talked about it back in 2018 about what the future of system administration, Linux administration would look like for people. And now here we are, really going into 3, 4 years later, where we're just now talking about DevSecOps and at the quantum level, DevSecOps at the space level, also DevSecOps, just across the gamut of any tech. When we're looking at it, and then how do we roll into cybersecurity and AI and machine learning with all of that? What does that look like? And even crypto as well too, when we're, or blockchain, as some people like to say, go back and forth between crypto and blockchain when it comes to what DevSecOps looks like. So we often see that as well too. So when I'm looking across the landscape and I'm looking at cybersecurity, I'm looking at it 3 layers. I'm looking, well, actually probably like four: external, internal for security, then internal threats, and then the actual physical uh machines that in our case would be VMs, cloud security, and so forth, so on. So that's often how I'm looking at it. Now, from your perspective as an engineering manager, I guess you got to put on your threat hat here. What are you seeing the most need for you and your team, or skills I should say, coming out? I'm passing you a resume. What you looking for?
Oh, so I guess going back to this, like my space right now, GRC, I think I would like to see a little bit more software engineering capability, because I want to be able to build these GRC components into the engineering pipeline. So like I've been trying to figure out the right balance there, because they're not a natural, like from my experience so far, I have not found that natural skill set of those overlays. But if you think about like the journey of compliance as code, as some people refer to it, like there's an opportunity for those domains to work together to better integrate to the overall like engineering mindset. So that's one. Two, uh, we've moved into like the risk quantification space, and we use a framework called FAIR, Factor Analysis of Information Risk, and that measures risk from like a dollar amount, like an annualized loss exposure. So, getting more folks that understand mathematics, to being able to create models around data, how to be able to interpret data. And then for my last role that I just have open, and that you talked about earlier, Tamika, is like my security metrics and assurance. Um, like what I'm looking for in that role is like individuals who can look at the security landscape, like incident response, AppSec, infrastructure security, and help those teams identify the right metrics to measure, and if the metrics they have, like, do they make any sense that aligns to the business or the investments we're making or to the risk? And if not, helping them to curate the questions they need to be asking so they can either go back and check in their systems if they're collecting the right data to answer that, or make the investments and make the modifications in their systems to produce that data so that we can aggregate this and roll it up in a way that says, hey, business, like, this is what we're looking across from our infosec investments. This is how it impacts the business. So that's the role I'm looking for now, is like, I call like a hybrid, maybe data analyst with like some security understanding with some visualization. Like, I may be looking for like a 4-star unicorn here. But I'm
But
just
I
I'm
don't
right
think
here.
you are. But I don't
I'm
think you are.
It is.
You
The,
know.
the reason why I said it, the dude he described is me, and I'm a unicorn. So I agree with him because I've programmed for 20 years. Then I went over to GRC. Then I've been an architect. So like you said, when you put all those together, those skills are rare. Tim, don't hate on a unicorn like me. Don't do that. Because really, like you said, you getting a purple team guy and a blue team guy with some red team guy. But the thing I'm doing a video is you got to be quantitatively, because when Charles come in, he don't care about the stig on the red hat. He wants to know what is that risk to the whole company,
Right.
right? When you roll it up to that level, right? Because you're talking about management and board of directors. So I am that unicorn. Go ahead, Tam. I'm patting myself on the back. Go ahead, Tam.
That's all right. But what I'm saying, I don't think that, to me, I don't think it's far fetched. If you
What?
come in, no, I don't think it's far fetched. And again, I'm coming from the side of, let's get some technical skills first. Let's
Thanks.
analyze and do some big picture and understand the value, the ROI of that, and then let's move you into a CISSP or a CAP, or what's it, capsism, or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
kept YSA. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, whatever it is. Over at who is it? Oh God, what's the name of that company? The A plus, the
Come to
CompTIA.
you.
Yeah,
But
whatever they got going on. And then Sans.org has their thing too,
mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm.
here's the other part too that I think it's not, I think, I know, and it's important right now, is everybody is shook from solar winds hack, and everybody is now, is like, all you see now is supply chain. Like,
Yeah,
Facts,
yeah,
facts.
all you hear is supply chain.
I hear that
How
too.
That's all you hear. Oh my
Yeah.
God. How can we make sure our code is secure? I don't know if Red Hat is giving me good code or not. And how do you know the tool that you're using is a good tool and it hasn't been hacked? Right?
Facts.
How do you know that? Right? So I agree with you, Charles. That is a software engineer,
Mhm.
cybersecurity, cloud security, uh, you can name it. But here's the question:
Hmm.
where where do you find the person with the minimal skills you need,
Facts.
and then how do you get them skilled up to what you need?
Okay. Okay.
Um, so I want to answer your question, and then I want to make sure we hit up DB Darrell's
We,
question
we
about
are gonna hit his
practice.
question.
All right.
Yep.
That's a tough one, and I think that goes back to an earlier point in the conversation where we talked about where in your business do you have the maturity to bring on folks and bring them along, right? Sometimes you hire for the role that you need today and where they skill for tomorrow versus, all right, we know they can get there in the future, but we need to bring them along. Those are two different types of candidates in my eyes. Um, in my current role, I have not had the luxury of sort of like building and growing. No, I take that back. There was one, like, no, I take that back. Hmm. I'll be honest, I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm not sure what the right mix of that is, because there is something to be able to bring someone in, but you have to have the team environment that's going to be able to be supportive of that person, because it could be high pressure and intensity where like failure does not mean like you lose your job, but it does mean like we're like you put us back. Like it's a bet. Like, okay, we bet with house money, but we losing, so we underwater. So we got to figure this thing out like together, because we both riding together over this. So like I think there's a balance there, but I'm just not sure. Like I have to weigh the considerations of the individual, the background. There's so many data points that I would actually evaluate to say, okay, you know what, let's pull the trigger, let's make this happen. Because like you said, there's a great pool of talent out there, I believe, but it's the oh, you shaking your head. Oh, well, okay, there's people out there that we have to assess the
I'm going
talent
with
about.
Charles and said that we out here. We out here. We out here.
And then it's like giving them the opportunity to exercise, and
Mhm.
and if they fail, be also to give them a learning opportunity to fail, and then get them on the track. Because once you're in information security, there's so many different pathways to take.
Oh,
You just
facts.
got to get in. Like you just got to get
Oh,
in the
facts,
first
facts,
2 to
facts.
3 years.
No,
Like,
I agree. Can I chime in? Because I'm shaking my head and shit.
Go ahead.
I don't disagree with Tim. I just think those people are so rare. They're unicorns because most insurance people don't really like the program. And a lot of metal people don't really like the program. So that's why I think it's unique. I agree with Tim. We need those people. I think you can grow those people. Tim just thinks everybody can be a damn Tim. She don't even realize
I
she's a
do.
unicorn.
I'm
So
not.
you are.
Oh, but I'm not. That's. I had this argument a lot with people. I am by far not a unicorn.
You are a
I'm just
unicorn.
I'm just a person that actually likes to read and pick up a book and then take that knowledge and apply it. That's
That's
to
rare.
but to me that's not a unicorn. You pick and
You
choose
can't.
what
You
you
can't.
want
I'm
to do.
interrupted. You can't even get kids to talk in the same room. They texting each other. What are you
That's
talking
that's
about,
that's not
Dale?
my fault. That's not my
No,
fault.
I'm not blaming you. I'm just telling you know that that's rare. You are a
But
rare jewel in this industry. I just want to salute you for that. Everybody
I'll
can't
take
be
it.
you.
I'll
You at
take
the
it.
you at the top of the pyramid, Maslow
Uh,
pyramid. I'm
n-
fat. I'm at the bottom trying to eat. I don't have insight at the top of the pyramid. You at the top, Tim. That's
I'm,
my only thing.
I disagree. I'm at the bottom. I'm
Oh,
a bottom. I'm
yeah,
bottom
Miss
feeding.
Exotic
no,
Cars.
no,
You
no,
at the bottom, Miss
I'm
Exotic Cars.
bottom feeding. I'm
I,
catfish.
I think there is an opportunity though, to your point, Tam, about like taking knowledge and effort to build skill.
Mhm.
Because you can be talented, but if you're not pulling the knowledge and effort in, the skill doesn't really come.
Right.
People want to get the skill without pulling in the having the knowledge or effort. And I think in our industry, it's easy. No, I don't say it's easy. There are folks that go down that route and find out later that, oh, I should have invested more in the knowledge so that my skills will be sharpened as I go forth in the changing dynamics and landscape of security.
Right.
And it's really being committed to doing that work, like you said, like taking the book, going online, pulling up the terminal, sshing into systems, building that Ansible script, automating your work after you've done it manually so you understand how it works. Like that level of, I'll use this word, that level of intimacy that you
Mhm.
have. Like when you're
Mhm.
intimate, you are very intentional and purposeful.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Facts.
some folks don't operate in that level of intimacy with knowledge, and therefore their skills may not reflect that.
Mhm. And I
100%.
think and DB Darrell, we're gonna get to your question, but let me say this. I promise you. But I also think and I'm not faulting evolution. But I am saying we have we have done a disservice into touching bare metal machines and
Facts.
actually not seeing things work and not being able to build. I'm old school. I learned a lot by picking up a CD and the CD drive didn't work, or the USB connect didn't work, or the drivers of that system didn't work, or the RAID controller didn't work,
Mhm.
or the I booted it up and I thought I made a RAID 6 a RAID 60 and it didn't work, and it took all night for it to build
Facts, facts.
that RAID. And
Getting there.
so you stopped and you got to go back and do it again. And then the idea of even what a RAID is or what a RAID controller looks like or what a load balancer physically looks like versus, oh, I
Facts.
spun up a load balancer out on AWS and I'm
Right.
gonna do some weighted traffic on it and
Ooh.
we're done, right? I think there has been there's a gap in that, and I have
Ooh.
seen organizations actually reaching out looking for people to understand bare metal. It's not a lot, but I get at least one a week. And so, that's looking for people to understand bare metal and then all three clouds. Oh, and by the way, we're also building a cloud on-prem. Can you do that? Right.
Facts.
So I get those people. All right, DB Darrell, we're gonna get your question now.
Oh man, okay, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna
We'll get
wait.
your question. All right. I'm not sure who this is to, but I'm gonna put this out here for the panel. How does chaos engineering differ from a normal stress test slash pen test?
So my take on this is that pen tests traditionally are like point in time assessments,
Mhm.
and the way that chaos engineering, is, my experience, is supposed to work is that you can inject that fault or like any time, or in some cases it can always be there, and you're continuously having the ability to understand and detect the impact it may have to your systems. And it could fall under like your normal stress test, but once again, like my understanding with stress tests, you're either being very intentional at the time for
Mhm.
which you're doing that stress test,
Facts,
whereas
facts, facts.
chaos engineering is literally that chaos is actually part of your environment. And there's a
Mhm.
great paper, I think it's from the University of Chicago, where they talk about complex systems. And like I look at like the code that we build today and the infrastructures that we build, or to me, are all another form of complex systems. And we talk about all these new abstractions to make it easier for us to do our work, but in fact it's actually creating multiple dimensions of complexity within the
Hmm.
subsystems that
Facts,
people
facts.
don't get to understand because of that abstraction. But in theory, I think we're just making our work more challenging through the appearance of like the abstraction layers that are built on
Mhm, mhm.
top. So I look at chaos engineering, that it's stress testing the complex systems that ride underneath all of the abstractions. So that's the differences in the way that I sort of look at chaos engineering versus stress testing versus pen testing.
Right. And then I think there was someone else. I think Kelvin was saying that you need the fundamentals. Let's see, what was that? Yeah, you need fundamental knowledge to build off of to really understand the game, and
Yeah,
and I understand that. And so
mhm.
fundamental is different for everyone, right?
Facts.
When I mention anything about Linux, people have asked me why should I learn it? What is the point of it? Or I even take it even one step further. I say you need to understand operating systems and kernels.
Ooh.
Like
Ooh.
like I take it I
Ooh.
take it one step further, like understanding operating systems, kernels, understanding assembly. I even take it to that level because now when you start getting down into it's getting into the weeds, but now if you get down here, then you start understanding like what is a make file,
Mhm.
what
Ooh.
is GCC actually doing. You start understanding these things, and when you start writing device drivers or getting into, and this is what's so funny is here we are years later talking about edge computing and
Mhm, mhm.
K3s and IoT devices. We're at that point now where we are in need of people to understand how to build device drivers and understand edge computing and security around edge computing. All right, we're at that point now, and we just don't have a lot of people that understand that. It's sad because there's so much um it's not a lot to know. It's just something that we just don't know. Like there's not really a path. When you go to college,
Mhm.
you get your degree in computer engineering, or you take your degree in electrical engineering, and you do some transformers and step downs and
Wow.
some servos, and you
Mhm.
learn how to program a robot. At least I did in college. We programmed little robots and stuff like that, and then you get out in the world and you're like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go work at with this knowledge that I got?
Facts.
Years ago, you didn't have that, but you had that now. All right. So I know
I,
Professor Black Ops, you
yeah.
had something to say. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I got to chime in, and I'm agree. I'm just gonna correct you a little bit. When you start talking about assembly lane and servos, you're not in the weeds. You in the soil. You planting the seed. Because I got my degree in 1990 computer science. I actually wrote an assembly program to call up a 9600 baud modem. That's how old I am. So I've been in. I call it a digital mud. So I salute you, but I think to help the industry grow, that's why they did those abstractions. When I work in Java, they're going to use Spring and Hibernate because they don't want to get into the dirt of the database. They don't want to understand how to write a select, right? They want the Java object to write the select for them, right? But the problem you have is when the object writes the select, it's going to be slow because it's not optimized before that particular database, right? Because they're trying to make a generic overlap, right? So I think you need obfuscation, right? And that easiness of it to get more people in the industry. But like you said, you're gonna need a few people to roll their sleeves up and get dirty, right? So the question is, how many people is that? Do they really have? Because what you said, I love, but I can promise you, we can count them on probably 2 or 3 hands when you talk about assembly language.
But
They,
that's
they, don't even-
okay. Cause
people don't even know what that is, Tim. You
but
throwing out like people know what that is.
look, man, I just need for you to cut the check. I don't care about
Oh,
what you're
facts,
talking about.
facts,
Cut the
facts.
check. Cut
Oh,
the check.
I'm eating steak, so I'm all about the check. Shout out to you. I'm going to give me some accredited investor money, so I'm about to get the Kobe. But from overall, I think we're both right, and I think we need how to balance it. You need that obfuscation so you can get more people in. The Java templates are going to help people that don't really understand an Oracle database or need help with transactions, right? That's what those templates do. But you're going to need a few people to get in the digital dirt and be able to write those controllers, write those frameworks, and be able to use them at a super efficient way. Because I work with a lot of Java guys, and the first thing they said is my Java slow. I'm like, just because your SQL statement sucks, right? So they don't understand that. So I think there's a balance there. That's all.
But you keep saying, right, and this is my pet peeve. You keep saying they don't understand it.
Facts.
Why? But why don't they understand it? When do you start understanding? When do you start peeling back the layers in your position to say,
Mhm.
okay, here's the issue that I have. Let me fix it. Here's where I've seen, and oh,
Mhm.
by the way, I'm gonna take that is and train the next person coming in so we don't keep having
But
those issues.
and I agree with you. My only pushback is that's the difference between a senior and a junior person. That's the difference between an SRE and an architect in life, right? So I think we're saying the same thing. So the question is, and I don't disagree with you, is do we think all the junior people need to be at that level, or is it different levels to this game, and only a certain few is going to be at the level that you're talking about?
All right, and then I'm gonna push back on that before you start in, Charles. I'm gonna push back on that.
Go
And
ahead.
my pushback is just be nice. I don't think it's a difference between a senior and a junior. I think it's just about being nice, like and sharing knowledge.
No, fine.
That's
My only
just my
pushback is
take.
I agree with that. I try to give people knowledge. Some people don't want it. They got 80,000 in junior position and they don't want to roll up their sleeves and get dirty. They don't want to get into the complexity of that. I'm with you, Tim. I've just seen different people don't want to roll up their sleeves and get dirty. If whatever I got, if they won't, I'm gonna give it to you because I ain't got much long left, Tim. I'm 53. I'm about to retire and get about this game. That's my only thing, Tim. I agree with you. I just think that's the difference between junior, senior, SRE, bare metal people.
I don't know. We're gonna let you. I'm gonna let you have it because we'll go back and forth on that. Charles, I know you wanted to say something. Welcome to the stage, Albert. I see you over there, but Charles, go ahead.
Well, I agree with both of the points that you all are
No,
making.
Charles, you got to pick a side, Charles. I can't let you. You need to pick a side, Charles. No,
Uh,
I'm just
well,
joking.
because there's found like I talked about before, there's an intimacy. Like if the desire to put in the effort is clouded by like being a junior engineer and the money that you're making right now, you really are shortchanging yourself. And what they say, shortcuts cut you short. Like that's how I look at that. But we have incentivized to some degree that level of thinking and working within the infosec industry. And I think I saw someone in the chat say like it's almost like security job security by confusion, because if to Tam's point, like I remember learning assembly as part of my malware analysis. Like I had to, because I needed to understand how these programs were working. But it wasn't. It only drove me there because I wanted to understand really like the depth as to
How it
how it
works.
works.
How
Because
it
without that,
works.
but then what happened is you can commoditize that. And now malware analysis, you can go to a FireEye where like 80% of that has been commoditized, where you don't like the need for you to truly understand may not be there as it once was. But that 20%, this goes back to Tam's point, that 20% are the people that we can count on our hands
Mhm.
that may know how to take it to the next level to truly understand like what that particular thing is doing. So I think there's the ecosystem tolerates that balance of who's putting in the depth into it and just the surface level. Like I think it's part of how the industry operates, because we're going to need we need people to play their roles. I'll use that statement. Some people want to play their roles well, and some people want to do more than what their role requires, and that's okay. And I'm perfectly fine with people understanding like what they want to do with their life and being like working where like that's fine. But there's some folks that like, oh, they want to get into this, like they want to understand to like to the functional layer, like how this thing works. And like you mentioned, Professor, like, hey, SRE architect, there's a difference when you go entry level, junior, mid level, senior, SRE architect, and principal and staff, or whatever terms you want to. There is a significance there, and I think it shows up in how people are able to disassemble like the principles around how like something may work, whether it's a programming, whether it's network protocols, whether
Facts,
it's the
facts.
hardware. Like they truly understand the underpinnings of that subject area.
So a question for you. I actually got two questions. One, I had your Netflix jobs up, and I know you mentioned it earlier. Which particular position am I looking at here on this
Um,
page?
let's see, where is it? It's
Let
called a
me blow it up.
it's called security assurance.
Security assurance. Let's see, that's partner.
Security assurance metrics engineer. Um,
Is it on the main page? On a main page?
yeah, it should be. Yeah, there it is, right there.
All right, here we go. Let me blow this up. Let's go
Yeah,
see what
blow
your
that up.
skills. Let me see what your skills say. I'm gonna
Yeah.
skip all this metric stuff at the top, the intro. All right. So I see some Tableau. We see
Mm-hmm.
some metrics. We see some developing guiding principles around security metrics,
Mm-hmm.
measurements, and the impact on business. Communicate effectively. Yep, curious in determining if we're measuring the right things. Provide insight on how to use metrics, gaps in our current measurement process, and so forth. Passionate about metrics. What skills though, like, if I'm looking at it, right, I'm gonna be honest, like if I'm looking at it and I understand metrics, and I understand maybe something like a data dog or observability. are
Mm-hmm.
are you looking for that?
No,
What
that's
are
not
you what type of resumes are you getting? Because I think it's kind of broad maybe here.
so I'm getting some math backgrounds, which I expect because of the modeling work that can go into this. I'm getting individuals who are very, I would say, seasoned and experienced in their careers because they've seen the ability to build metrics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing folks who are data analysts because there's a data component with the SQL and
Mm-hmm.
the counts and everything else. So like, yes, it's broad for a purpose because I'm still trying to figure out like what is this type of person. I'm
Got you.
not looking for the data dog metrics because I think that's too low level. Um,
Right.
but I under like it would be nice if they're able to see data dog and understand how that applies to that particular team, and then ask them the types of questions or enumerate with them like what are you really solving for? Do you understand the business needs? How does your work support the business needs? What are the metrics that your work actually does that the business can take away and say like this is happening or not? Sometimes that doesn't happen when you're so close to the data. Like you need someone else outside whispering in your ear like are you thinking about these things? That's why like this role is like the sequel part of it is just like, hey, if I gave you some data, could you go away, do some analysis, and just share what you're seeing? and then help inform other teams. Are you thinking about the data correctly? What are you measuring? Are you measuring the right thing? If not, I think this is what you need to measure to help align to the business outcome. Like this role is more focused on metrics and measurements and more supporting the business than so much the team itself. I'm not saying team metrics are not important, but they're closer to that to help like identify that, like the team itself. This person is sitting a layer above and abstracting
Mm-hmm.
like the value of each of
Mhm.
those teams to say, okay, hey, business, you're asking us about these things. Like here, how it shows up with the metrics and measurements we're collecting. That's like it's very nuanced, but I'm hell bent on figuring out how to hire, interview for this particular candidate and role.
All right. So then another question I would have is, what led you to create this position, or like what did you see to say, hey, we need this type of person?
Uh, Great question. This is the first role of its kind within our organization. And what led me to this place was that we've done a lot of work on measuring our risk and quantifying that through the frameworks and the models that we're developing. So we're getting this data. We have great incident data that I think we can mature. So I felt that we really needed in the business, but we really need people, or at least make an initial investment to find folks that can pull all this data together to ensure, like, are we asking the right things? Like, are our investments actually moving security in a way that's beneficial to the business? What are those metrics that we should be focused on that help tell that story, not just within our team, but externally to the business? Like that was missing. Like I know there's work going on, I know there's activities going on, we know there's some level of risk reduction, but what is the overall story through the metrics that we can develop, instrument, and test that says like, yeah, we have confidence that we can pull this anytime. Like right now, it would be more of like a drill to sort of like figure out, okay, how do we pull this all together? Like, how do we build those into the way we work, how we work? So when we talk about it, like we have dashboards that represent the different layers of the business: executive, team level, and organization level. Like those are the three levels that we're thinking about initially. So that's how hopefully it gives you some background, like how we came to this position and role. Like I'm super excited. Like it's going to be challenging.
Mm,
But I'm super excited to see the types of candidates that we're seeing. Because I'm seeing math folks, seeing data folks, I'm seeing very senior risk engineer folks. Like I'm seeing all types of folks, and we have a really cool take home assignment, I think, that goes with this. Like I'm really trying to be thoughtful about how do we assess the skills that we think are needed for this role, and communication is a big part of it because of like this role will be helping with executive management, potentially audit committee work and things of that nature.
and now another question is, do you think it's one role, or do you think it's a maybe a team of people?
So I believe it's going to be a team in the future, but we probably need someone to help lay down the strategy and foundation of this work,
Got you.
and call out the investment areas because we do have a pretty strong risk engineering group. And I think that group will help this role in forming out what's lacking, what's missing, and sort of help them drive that strategy from like the assurance and metrics side of the house, which is why I actually being very intentional in saying it's assurance and metrics, like separate from the GRC, like it's pure assurance and metrics.
Got you. Albert, welcome to the stage. I got $5. What you got? Oh, Albert's quiet. I don't know. I guess he may be
You
back in Clubhouse.
you
So
you scared him.
I scared him with my $5. It's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
All right, cool. What's going on, Darren French? How you doing? And I see you, Savage Scientist. What's going on with you?
Right.
Uh, and
Can I?
I knew somebody. And Kelvin Davis, how are you? Go ahead.
Yeah, like you said, that role is kind of so unique, and like I said, I've been working with some people, kind of like you said, figuring out that role, insurance, and getting metrics at the business level, like you said, one up from the technical level, and really, what does that look like? Because now you're taking technical metrics and you're taking them up to the C-suite or even higher to your board of directors, because now they hear about ransomware and stuff, so they asking questions to your CIO and CISO. So now you got to get that communications with some metrics up to them, right, and figure out what does that look like.
Yep. And the other thing that that I think that I see out of this is, look, how do you set people up? I mean, like you said, you lay down the foundation, but how do you train? Uh,
Mhm.
the people, not just at your level or at that, not when I say at your level, how do you train people that may come in at this level, but how do you get them to train others down, right? Like, and I don't want to say down, but I just want to say
No, it's down. Say it.
it's,
It's down. Say it. Say it.
I mean, when I'm not trying, I'm not
There's
saying,
levels. There's
It's
yeah,
levels.
levels
it's
to this
levels.
down. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
say down, Tam. It's okay.
I,
It's down.
I
It's
don't want to be
okay.
offensive, right?
It's not offensive.
You
It's
know,
not offensive.
kumbaya, peace, but
No.
I just want to, how do you lay down a foundation of training where now it becomes the norm, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're doing a cultural shift when we're talking about this, so that way when someone goes to think, oh, let me go read this, I don't want to call it a policy, but let me go read this guide, and out of this guide I would get these things that I need to go ahead and implement now, and that shows the ROI, which increases, your, I don't know what y'all worth, 30 billion or 40 billion, or I don't know what you're worth now, but you know what I mean.
It's a lot.
Increase your billions.
No, I think part of that is like once again being intentional. Like so in addition to that, I just recently hired security communications and awareness. So to me, like all these functions work together, but in order for them to be successful, we made the bet that we have to hire folks in those roles to sort of curate that work. So going back to your board, Tam, like the foundation is the strategy. Like we have to have a vision put together around the assurance and metrics work, and then the goal would be potentially how does that reflect in the other parts of the infosec organization. So that's working with those teams, understanding like their technical pathways and their
Mhm.
business alignment to sort of put those pieces together and then let them run and figure out using their expertise and their creativeness the solutions to make that happen. But once they start thinking of, oh, like we should be thinking about this as a value add to the work that we're doing, then it comes part of their thinking. Just as we talked about compliance being part of just the way we work, like those are the ways to do that. Like we believe by making that intentional investment in these areas. So like, that's why I said I'm excited for this because I don't know what I'm going to find, to be honest.
Mhm.
And you know what, it may work, it may not work, but I'm at least in a
It's
place that
gonna work.
allows me to make the bet to go and try it out.
Yeah,
Huh.
Professor Black Ops says it's gonna work because you're gonna hire him. That's what he's
No,
trying to
no,
say.
no, no. I got one quick question though. Is and
Mhm,
you, of course, you can skip over and say you can't answer. But
mhm.
since y'all a global company and y'all doing GDPR, PCI, shit, I was gonna say HIPAA, but people hurting themselves in movies. But what kind of how are you harmonizing all those different compliances to even get it to roll up into this person to take that metric and run it to the business, right? Because like from a global company perspective, y'all probably got 10 compliances y'all trying to handle, across the planet.
So I think this once again goes back to another intentional investment we did. So about compliance. So we've hired some compliance engineers to sort of focus on the consolidation of the different control objectives and how they map to the different frameworks. And then how do you take those control objectives and relay them to the engineering business? So hopefully we get closer to that engineering as code, I mean compliance as code concept, and how do we ensure those requirements are clear enough so that our engineering partners can build the things we need in innately in the tools and services and products they're developing. So we are taking that into consideration as we think about like all the things that we need to be adhered to from a compliance standpoint. What are the controls that map into those things, and what are the obligations along with the evidence process that is required by our engineering team to sort of develop against, like what do they need to build to be able to support that for us. So it is something that we're very intentionally working on in the quarters ahead.
Is privacy real big? I was talking to a dealer. He said when you do GDPR, United States, each state want to do their own privacy.
Yeah.
Is privacy underneath yours? Because one guy told me that's the next big bag is privacy, because with GDPR and Africa and Brazil, every country got their own different uh, uh, compliance for that even now. And I never really focused on privacy compliance to at that level.
Yeah, there's another team in our organization that's privacy assurance engineering, and they are focused on all the nuances around privacy. We do some partnerships around like data governance and some of that work, but a lot of the privacy work comes out of our privacy assurance engineering group within InfoSec.
Okay, because sometimes it's under infosec, sometimes it's not. Become
Now here's a long question, or I
Hmm.
guess I didn't ask you what kind of time you got. What kind of time you got?
I could probably go for another maybe 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay, that's cool. That works for me. All right. So I am a seasoned vet in the game. I'm applying to Netflix to work on the security team. And I'm gonna approach it from Professor Black Ops. I've only done Stigs.
shout out to the Stigs. Shout out to the Stigs.
I've only done Stigs. I'm handing you my resume. What are you gonna say?
I started off from Stigs myself also.
Oh man,
So the
I'm at
way
the.
let me hit this real quick because the way that I look at this is how my first boss at LinkedIn told me. There are principles and guiding foundations that the government does that are different than any other environment that you're probably going to work in. How do you take those learnings and apply them to environments like Facebook where they literally say run fast and break things? That that thinking, that mental model of how to do that, that is where either you're going to make it or not. That's to me is the big difference. Like with someone coming from a SIG, like I would like really test out in the interview process is yes, I know like the government has very prescriptive and explicit things. But if you were to pull that back and ask yourself, like, what is the intent or the desired outcome of that? What are the principles that support that? How would that show up in other organizations where you still get that same benefit? Then to me, you have the ability to sort of deconstruct problems, take them and apply them in other concepts and be good. So because you may not have the stick of a warrant order or something like that to say like, hey, it doesn't even I don't even care. Thou shalt go do this, go do it now. You may not have that. Well, more than likely you will not have that in some of the private industries unless you work for highly regulated places like financial institutions and healthcare. But I think that's how I would like approach that interview with that individual. It's like, okay, let's like tell me your STIG assessment history. Tell me the environments we worked in. Okay, in this environment, this may show up here. Like, tell me your experiences and trying to deconstruct that and applying it to that model to here. What does that look like? How does that differ? What are the trade-offs that you would go through? Why did you make those trade-offs? Like that's the way I would probably go through that.
Uh, I don't
Tim,
want
can I
to.
answer that? I
Yeah,
need a piece of that. I need a piece of that.
go ahead.
Just real pushback. He's correct, but if you remember Stig, he's a little rusty. Cat twos are or you got ways you can do a mitigated control. You can accept the risk, right? So that right there is going to show you I'm fluid and how good I am, right? Because I'm going to tell you this is a control, this is my compensated control, this is how I took from risk from 10 and left you with very little residual
Oh,
risk, right?
Charles,
Because I'm that guy.
can I grab that, Charles? Can
Go
I
ahead,
grab
go
can
ahead.
I grab that? All right. What I'm gonna grab and say is this. All right, that's nice. Now put that in a pipeline.
No,
Give me the results of that continuously.
facts, facts.
Remediate that continuously.
I can
And
do that.
and oh, and by the way, what I also need to know, I'm gonna take this to Charles. What's the ROI on this? What is
Oh,
what is the
facts.
significance of this? So again, this is where I go all the way back as to I agree with you, Charles, on the why, but I also agree with you need to see the big picture and tell
Oh,
the
facts,
story.
facts, facts,
All
facts.
right. To me, they go hand in hand with that, so you can understand the what you're actually doing. And I think that's one of the things that's a nuance in tech is
Mm-hmm,
do these things, but why do them,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
also what's the gonna be the actual outcome for us
Right,
to do those things. So
right. So
that's
can
my take.
I need a little piece of that, Tam. You got me excited. As a guy that did Oracle and Java for 20 years, I'm about that pipeline. Like I was doing PVCS before we automated. We had to do it manually. So I can break down those things, tell you the why, and tell you we gotta get a little purple team on now because we talking about putting it in and from a programming standpoint. Obviously, I'm trying to get to infrastructure as a code. I'm going into that, but mostly it started as a programming. So I can do all that, Tim, and tell you the ROI because the business is going to tell me the value they think they're going to get from that. I'm gonna subtract how much development time and infrastructure for that, and that's gonna give me the dollar amount because I have an MBA, so I can dish you the ROI because I'm about that life.
You hear all
So,
this? You hear all this, Captain Charles?
so I can do that.
Charles, you hear? Hold on, hold on. Let me take. Let me do my Anton Daniels on this right here.
Shout out to About That Life.
Shout out, yeah, shout out to Anton.
Shout
But
out
you,
to
that's what
About
you
That
should.
Life.
Let me put my cap on.
I mean, if this is not the biggest audition,
Wow.
give this
Whoa.
man
All
an
right.
interview.
Woo.
He
I
need
could
an
go.
interview.
Shout out to Women in Linux. This is the million dollar coding time on
Working
Women in Linux.
on billions. We're working on billions over here because
Pop out
we're
billions.
working on billions over here. And I want to give a special shout out to Kevin and Rico. Welcome to the team. Then we got so much more in store. If you haven't joined us for on our membership on YouTube, I have so much to bring, and you'll actually get a chance to see that if you haven't already seen the value already. I try to make sure that we give good content out information. I try to ask all the tough questions. I'm sure I get the tough answers back, but as I take my bruises and lumps as they come.
It's all
Uh,
love. It's all love.
all
It's
right,
all
so
love.
Rico, you said when my guys work with Stigs, I wanted them to understand the implications of open findings and
Mhm.
and be able to articulate the risk to the customer, so they understand it from their vantage point. Exactly,
Facts.
exactly. Uh,
That's a good way to do it. Since I've been doing sticks for 20 years, no cap. I've been doing it for 20 years. That's it. And that's why I like the stick because when you look at the fix part and the discussion part, they really talk about what they're trying to fix inside the stick, and that's a brilliant learning thing I think from the sticks. When you actually read the fix text and the discussion text, they tell you what they're trying to fix and what they're trying to do with that particular text, and I think that's a great learning. I tell everybody, get your STIG game open. It's a little dry, but if you go through it and understand it, you're gonna learn a lot, even if you can't apply it.
so here's a question, Charles. This is totally maybe related, unrelated to Netflix. What is cybersecurity gonna look like in the metaverse?
To be quite honest, I can't even. I'm trying to deal with the real verse that's called my life in front of me. Like I understand this whole metaverse. Like if people want to play, go ahead. Like, but I like to live the life that's literally in front of me right now. I haven't spent too much time thinking about the metaverse. Actually, I have a friend who's coming in tomorrow, who's been working in the NFT space. We're going to hopefully get a chance to meet up with him. I think he does some work in the security space. But I'm not gonna be honest. I don't have any time left to be thinking about NFTs and
Facts,
metaverses and
facts.
the different cryptos and blockchains that are supporting that environment. No brain space right now. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, but okay, so you build a platform, right? We're talking about data. Let's analyze it, right? We're talking about data that's going to be exchanged inside of this. What does that look like? What does it look like? It's to me, I'm still, nobody has told me, and I forgive my ignorance. What is the difference between metaverse and Second Life? I don't know. Somebody let me know on
I,
that.
my understanding is Second Life was too old. The metaverse they said is it's going to be more business wise, where Second Life was more like a game, and Fortnite is 1.5 because it's a game. 2.0, we're going to be sitting at a table, touching the table, and it's going to show you your whole infrastructure. We're going to see packets run through the three-dimensional. Then we can see how the load balancers interacting. So that's what they believe will be the 3.0 version of that. Just me doing do a little researches. Both of those are games. Now we're talking about business, selling real estate in there. I don't know how you sell
Yeah,
digital real estate,
yeah,
all
I
of
was
that.
looking at that. I was looking at that earlier. There's supposed to be a airdrop on digital real estate earlier, and I
Facts,
was like, oh, I might get in just for that, just to
facts,
see. I
facts.
just want to see. I just
and
want to see
that's
what it looks
just
like.
you
to buy
know.
just to buy digital real estate for which I can't buy a home on. Like that's where I'm having the disconnect for me
Well,
personally. Like
we buy digital money, so we buy digital money. No, but I agree with you. And the other part of that, I think Gucci just signed on with something particular, so they can start doing your digital outfits already. So you can start buying Gucci wear inside the metaverse. So I guess they sign their NDA, whatever they're gonna do, so they can the only one can
Yeah, I
sell
think Nike is
Gucci stuff.
already. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I think
think
Nike
Nike
was in
links
there.
are already
Yeah.
there.
So
For
it's
their.
yeah, so I'm kind of like Charles. I'm getting old. I don't have that many cycles in my life to try to do that. I'm trying to master AWS so before I get to the metaverse. But that's my understanding. I did a quick video and did a little research, and Open VR is the language they're going to use it. And there was CVEs that people were already hacking Open VR. So I was like, we need to lock it down. So
Right. Yeah, it's just gonna be interesting because again, I had always had this idea of a way to do interviews in Second Life for tech interviews, and just basically you become a character. You just get the person's resume. You don't get their voice. You don't get a chance to see what they look like or anything, and you just interview the person, right? You fly in, you do your thing, you get the introduction to the other people, and you leave, and whether that person performed or not, and showed up, whether it be in conversation or whatnot, you hire that person, and once you give the offer letter and they sign, that person is then revealed to you on who they
mm,
are, right? uh,
mm,
yeah, we
mm.
taking away everything.
No, that ain't
you're
gonna
not
happen. The
you're not
powers
gonna
that be
judge
gonna
me.
make you cam up. Like when we go
Yeah.
to work now, you gotta cam up. They ain't gonna let you do that,
No,
Tam.
you're not. You gotta go look and see what my hair looks like.
No,
Nothing. If I got crust in my eyes,
no.
nothing. Would you
Shout out
shout out?
to
Shout out to the people that got crust in their eyes in the
facts,
interviews.
facts. This ain't gonna be a meritocracy, Tam. That the world is not ready for a meritocracy.
Hey,
That
they need to
sound
get
good,
ready.
but Charles gonna make you cam up. He gonna want to see you. We gonna need to cam up. You can't be
He
the
might
robot.
no. Charles don't care. Charles is gonna send you this take home.
Yeah, he talk about take home. Do I get paid for the take home, Charles?
No,
I
no,
bill a lot, bro. I just got to
no.
take the take home and do it.
Yeah,
Oh man, I don't know, Charles. We're gonna have to talk
we
about the
try
take
we
home.
try to scope it like appropriately. Like I said, I understand there's a lot of time that it takes in this, but I found that doing the take home for the roles that I filled recently, it has been helpful. Um, I more helpful than I normally. I don't do take homes like this. The last couple of roles I just started has actually been extremely helpful signal as to like how to think about the roles and how to readjust if I need to readjust. To
Are
be
people
honest,
cheating on the take home? I'm not saying
not
I would cheat. I probably call Tam and be like, Tam, I need some help with this take home. I'm trying
and
to
I'm
get
I'm
this.
I'm gonna tell you no.
What? Come on, Tam. We supposed to be working together
you
We
gotta get
in
are.
this
intimate. You
in this
gotta get intimate with
meritocracy.
it.
We are. I'm gonna tell you no.
No, Tam. Where D at? Now that's when I need D at. Where D at? I need D to get on you.
And she ain't gonna answer the phone. At least I'm gonna respond to you.
Nah, but I agree with Charles. I mean, I took on a few in my time, but it's not, a thing I've done very often in my 30 years in the game. So,
No worries. There's always time to learn something new.
oh
Yeah.
no, my time's about up. It's all good.
All
Just
right.
a little
So
different.
here's another question that often comes up um from a lot of junior people, or I won't even say junior people, a lot of people that are making a career change into cybersecurity. This was something that I was looking at earlier today. Is how do I get started in cybersecurity? One was, hey, you need to understand a programming language in Linux. Another one is, if I'm making a transition into cybersecurity, where am I making, where do I make that leap at?
Yeah.
And you all are a vast organization of very discrete talent that you look for, and in some cases, you could call it the unicorn if you want to, uh that you look for. You find them, they're out there, and you find them. But
Thanks.
in general, like, so how do you take, what advice would you give, I should say, to a person who's, say, 7 to 10 years in the game, and they want to make that switch into cybersecurity? What would be the first landing spot that you would send someone?
So I guess To get some better background there is when you say 7 to 10 years in the game, is this just being like general software developer, or was this a career transitioner, like someone transitioning from a different career?
Say a software developer.
So I actually think that's actually an easier, from my experience, transition, because you could probably fall into like the application security space. Because if you truly understand how your languages work, there are probably some core principles that you innately know, that maybe with the security context on top of it, you get the unlock of the, oh, I did not know that, the aha moments. So I actually think there's a cleaner transition there. For me personally, like my experience within the incident response and digital forensics and IR, like I found that to be like the greatest experience, because you get to see a little bit of everything, and you get to partner with people during incidents. Like you get to learn a lot from the business and the different parts of security through incidents. It can be draining because of the amount of on call time, but it's, to me, has been very intriguing. um GRC, like, I'm not sure I would recommend that like right off the back, because I think that's just different. I don't know how to put that into words yet, but I just said that's different. Then you have like your traditional enterprise security, like endpoint, network, um, like that realm. Uh, that the successful transitions that I have noticed have been individuals who come from an IT background, who are either doing like the help desk and want to move up into the security, understand like the ideas around Active Directory. Like there are principles around Active Directory that show up in other parts of security, whether it's AWS in terms of like organizations and how do you do IAM policies and things like that, and policy management, or I'm going to assume that there's something similar in the GCP space and the Azure space. So, like, I've seen a lot of successful transitions happening from IT support into security. So, those are the experiences I've been able to run into.
Got you. Now I'm gonna go back because you mentioned some books and some people are just joining the stream. What were the two books that you mentioned earlier?
Black box thinking, I think that's, is that Matthew Syed? Uh,
Yeah. Yep.
and then the other one was Start with Why, Simon something,
Simon Sneak was it?
something, Simon something. Those
Yep.
are, there's probably a whole bunch of other books, but those are the two that pop up immediately in my mind.
I thought I had them. Yeah, I do have them back here. Let me pull them up here. This is the first book that you mentioned here. Start with the why, and then the other one was Black Box Thinking, and here's that book here. Black Box Thinking: Why Most People Never Learn from Their Mistakes, but some do. All right, those are the two books that you mentioned. So I want to make sure we have those out there for people to read up on.
And
Now, another question that I often get all the time is, what is it like working at Netflix? How much stress is it at Netflix? Uh, have you gone bald yet, or like what's going on?
um, well, I was going bald, but I don't contribute. I don't attribute that to working at Netflix. I'll say this: I thoroughly enjoy the people that I work with and being able to develop and create the team. Like I do enjoy that. I'm learning from folks whom I've observed from afar. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come to Netflix, because there are people that I really wanted to work with and just get an understanding of how they build teams. So I personally have enjoyed my journey, because there were explicit things that I liked about the culture, the memo culture. So it's going to force me to improve on my writing. My current boss, I think, has been awesome in terms of my career development. Every time him and I interact, I think of three words that he's told me, like, how do you communicate with clarity, brevity, and precision? Like, thinking in that construct of those three terms, for me, is changing how I work on my delivery, my writing, and everything else. So the clarity, brevity, precision are something that I constantly hear in my head when I communicate. So for me, like, I thoroughly enjoy it, because these are skills that, whenever my time is done with Netflix, or we decide to move ways, like, I think it's going to set me up for the next step, or in my career moving forward.
Right now. for your time at Netflix and building out your teams, um, have you as an engineering manager failed? Like, and if you failed, do you are you acknowledging that to your team, or
Yeah.
how are you handling that?
I'm like, one of the things like that I always tell people, I practice security with grace. Um, we were all walking this journey on earth with so many things, and like I said, like, if I'm open to failure, like I fail myself. Like, and I call that out, like, just because I'm a manager or leader, there's no certain expectations, rightfully so. But when I mess up or screw up or don't put my team in a place to succeed, like, that's on me to call out and rectify. And I've had situations where, hey, I noticed that my team was suffering because of either my inability or my lack of action to resolve an issue. But when I resolved it, like, I saw the team change and recognize, like, okay, like, we're back on track. So for me, it's like, just giving that grace, extending that grace to other people as I would want them to extend to me. And I'm probably lean more on the emotional IQ side of, like, human relationship and interaction. Like, I thoroughly enjoy doing that, and just extending that and expecting adults to be adults. And if we can't even, there's other ways that we can resolve those challenges. But at a minimum, I extend that idea that I am working with an adult, and we will go from there.
Got you. Now, when you are working, are you working with other managers? Do y'all get together and actually talk as managers, like about how to progress forward, or is it a silo situation and you're just really working focused on with your team? Like, how's that interaction for
So
you?
it's collective. Like, it's some of it's siloed, some of it's cross collaboration. Like, it's all. I think we get a grab bag of all the types,
Hmm.
depending on the situation of the teams and the problems you're working on. I think we have the experience of all the types. I don't think we're any different from any other company in terms of how you operate as a leader,
I
manager.
don't know, the Dora report. If you go read the Dora report about Netflix, have you read the Dora report? Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna send it to you so
Send it
you
to
can
me.
high performing teams for 2021, and what does that look like when we're talking about high performing teams? Now, I know another people. I don't know if you all are, if you all do this. I don't know if you're using Kanban boards, or you're just using sprints, or you're like, we're not doing that. Just get the job done.
It's a multitude of things. There are Kanban boards. Like, I'm of the mindset, like, let's figure out what works for us and use that and ensure, like, if our partners, like, as long as we're in sync with our partners, like, if you want to use a Tableau pad, a Monday board, a Jira board, like, it's up to you. Like, I delegate that to, like, hey, you understand how you work. Um,
Right.
like, we're just going to provide, like, the guiding principles as to where we're trying to get to, like, how you want to manifest that, all up onto you.
All right. Now, in terms of for you, I know you say you want to work in the real verse, but I'm gonna go back to it. What is that? Just think out loud. Think out loud.
Hmm.
What does that data look like on the back end for, say, a metaverse, with GDPR and
I think privacy becomes the currency for which we will talk in.
okay.
Um, Countries can leverage data in a way that becomes monetary value for that particular country. I think as countries that have access to, like, the internet networking infrastructure, like, that have the ability to do that, will become more valuable because the data, especially if we're heading to the metaverse and every interaction is going to have to be tracked, tagged, and everything else for, like, an identity standpoint, then data to me becomes the currency for which potentially we operate within, which I can see why there'd be a variance of the GDPR or California CCPA or the work that's happening in Brazil. Like, these things will continue to pop up until we sort of mature what's next. So I actually think, like, data is the currency for which we will discuss, like, technology and security. Going back to
So
your point, Professor, like, privacy becomes a hot space.
Yeah.
So here's something that I'm expecting to see from you all. D, can you bring my screen up, please?
Oh boy.
Space perspective. I don't know if you've heard of this. So space perspective is what they're doing is they're launching out to the stratosphere, and there is human travel can go out to the stratosphere and actually get a chance basically to see Earth. I think the flight is like 2 hours or something like that. And they were selling this at 250, 250,000 a seat. Now it's 125,000 a seat. So here's my question. We're just thinking out loud. When is Netflix gonna shoot a movie out here in the because this what I see. I already talked about this. I already see proposals. I already see weddings. I already see somebody like, hey, we had our reunion here. I that's what I see. But you let me know because I could see Netflix actually doing movie production and film out here, uh, in the stratosphere. Just throwing it out there. Those
Like I said, I don't know about any of that. All I know is I enjoy the real verse down here on terra firma. I like the land that I walk on, the firmness. Like I enjoy all of that, but who knows what the years will unlock in terms of just data, you know, music videos and everything. I was like, I have no clue. But with anything that causes change, it's an exciting time for those who are investing in it. It can also be a scary time for others. So it's definitely going to be interesting one way or another.
well, we got a
Facts.
question for you in the audience, and the question is, what is your take on joining a board that is focused on security to obtain exposure while continuing to work your 9 to 5?
I'm actually not against that. It depends on like the scope of some of the board work and what that entails. But it may give you some exposure from like what it means to be on a board, which I think is separate from just
Mhm.
like the security work potentially of
Right.
that work. So I think you may get a 2 for 1, but you just may need to understand like how much time and commitment and what the expectations are with regards
Facts.
to the either the insight you're providing them, because
Mhm.
as a board member, there's probably something tied to that, and what is
Facts.
the value of that as they move forward as an organization and company.
And what is I guess too, what's the value back to you for doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. My other thing is be careful because you can get sued on a board member if they take your stuff and you implement it and you get hacked. It's rare, but I will get some release documentation if you're going to be bored and you talking about security issues. I'm a risk guy, so I like to have stuff documented. So if I'm on the board and I'm giving risk recommendations and that risk gets them hacked, you could possibly be sued.
So in that insurance, and it well, is this where what insure tech is for the companies, but in this where
Right.
insurance comes in at?
I have an umbrella policy, so if I make a mistake on a customer, I'm covered. But I had a specific rider added to my umbrella policy, so I actually asked my insurance company, and I talked to them. It's rare because I give advice to people like Charles. They're going to make a decision, but when people sue, especially on Big Two, they sue everybody in the chain. So the odds of me personally getting sued is 5%. Charles is a big guy, so he's probably at 30% because he's on the chain, right? But I want to make sure I understand my risk and I'm covered. That's all I'm saying. I got an umbrella policy, and if I get 2 million that touch me, I'm covered. So that's
Charles,
all.
he keep throwing you out there like you dry turkey. About to, he
I
keep
don't want
throwing you. He
to.
was like, wow.
I don't want to disrespect Charles. He came to the panel. I want to show respect, so I want to make sure I respect my man. So at his level, it's gonna move a little differently than my level because I advise Charles what to do. And he can accept it or deny it. I'm cool. I'm a big boy. Charles can say that's a bad idea, PBO. That's not a good. I'm not gonna do it, and I'll salute. But just in case, I have a little umbrella. Talk to a few people. Get you some stuff signed on some paper. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And the other one was what was it, flow architecture, Kevin? I probably lost the context for that particular conversation when you were talking about flow architectures. So I know you gotta go, but before we get out of here, let's see what you say in the chat. Yep, yep. We about to go. So before we get out of here, what or anything that you want to leave on the table in terms of jobs, career advice, um, outlook on future, because what we've been talking about is now, and I'm trying to prepare people for what's coming down the pipe in terms of space, because since NASA is building Wi-Fi on the moon, what does that look like? Satellites and cybersecurity and IoT devices. But since
Facts.
you're in the real verse, what is your take on career advice that you want to leave people? Something to take home with them before we get out of here.
I think the metaverse is interesting. Also with the VR work, I don't know what that's going to entail from a security standpoint, even um, just the human experience and the user security experience around those interfaces, let alone everything else. The data story is going to be interesting also. Um, like those are some of the things, and then the privacy, just the privacy elements and the data processing around the work, data analysts, data analytics, data visualization engineers. Like I think all that data work is still going to be relevant. Um, I'm intrigued about the idea of like I'm not a big AI ML person, but is there something around like ML helping to build like 50% swag of code? Like right, commoditizing elements of coding practices, which I think will then be another disruptor in terms of how to get people into this space. Like I don't know, I'm just intrigued about like ML being a catalyst for standardizing or onboarding like basic type stuff. So that's just one of my personal things I'm intrigued about, because when I see like French fry making robots and stuff like that, like I wonder how far away are we to making like adaptive code generation that at least scaffolds like more than just what it scaffolds today. So I'm intrigued about that.
Yeah,
Uh,
you
yeah, go ahead.
say that. You say that. I mentioned this to. I'm gonna name drop, but that's who I was talking to. I was I mentioned this to Armand Dagger over at Hashi, when I was sitting next to him, and I was saying to him, I was like, okay, you all are building Terraform Cloud and you're building Terraform Enterprise, but even with Terraform Cloud, you're holding people's states, so you get a chance to look at their data. You get a chance to look at, hey, when this company is onboarding, these are things that we often see all the time. And instead of people going out to create infrastructure, you could then just log into something and it gives you a recommendation on the infrastructure that you need to create, because you've seen this so many times. And here's the value over time of what you get and how much it's going to cost you. And instead of you, DevSecOps person or cybersecurity person, or whatever the case may be, do these things, it is now just a click. And the infrastructure is then deployed. You can download that code and put into your repository in case you need to make changes. But now we don't worry about building infrastructure anymore, because we've seen it so many times and we have the analysis and the AI of how it's done so many times. I now deploy this, I secure this, and then, oh yeah, by the way, uh, here you go to scale it as well too. That's what I've been thinking.
I'm not too far from that thinking. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's where I was at. So, do you want to drop how people can get in touch with you on LinkedIn or social media? And then I got a follow up. It's not a question; it's a thank you.
Cool. Of course, like I'm available through LinkedIn, Charles underscore Nwatu, Twitter, Charles underscore Nwatu, and email first name dot last name at gmail.com. So like the way I put it is, if you make the time, I'll make the time in return. So like that's my minimum ask. And then thank you once again, Tam and everyone else in Women in Linux for having me again today. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to just chat it up with you all. So thank you.
You're welcome, and I appreciate you for coming out. We always get into our conversations and Slack and whatnot. And I appreciate you for even coming on, especially to talk about jobs, give people some insight, and career changes, what you're looking for in the positions that you're looking for, and as well, just to get your insight on where you're at with the metaverse and what you're thinking about with people. Appreciate those that became members tonight. Shout out to the new members. We appreciate you. Shout out to Linda. Shout out to Ann, Cisco 5. I see you, Kevin, everybody. Charles, it's been great. Sasha, I see you. It's been great. We're gonna get together again, most definitely. Maybe this time I'll put in for a job. I don't know. You know, one of these days I'll put in for something.
Well,
And,
if
and go from
anybody
there.
does, please let me know. And also, if there's other Bay Area jobs, like I said, part of this is just knowing who you know and just asking the question. It never hurts. Like, give yourself the opportunity and the option before just closing down and saying no. So I'm at least open for that.
Right. And here you have it. Again, we'll try to bring it to you. We appreciate you all. We'll see you all again tomorrow at 11 o'clock East Coast time. Not West Coast time, but East Coast time, and then 2 East Coast time. All right. So again, we appreciate you all. Charles, thank you once again.
Thank you, everybody.